Hi, beautiful being. As you can tell, it's noisy out here today. The houses that are just across the way are in full steam. Lots of building noises, which is okay. I actually find the music much more distracting than the building noises, but they keep it down for me, which I appreciate. But I don't think I'm going to tell them, yeah, you can't have the music. Anyway, it's just a challenge I have to deal with. But I want to show you the day before I go inside and tell you what I've been doing for God of me. So let me do that. Because it's a beautiful winter's day here. Look at that. There's just these little clouds drifting over. And a blue sky, which is actually not particularly blue because there's a high layer of cloud. You can see that. See that white down by the horizon? It actually never disappears. It's a lovely, soft blue sky today. And I can't walk up close to the plants because the connection out here is a bit wimp and weaky. I just have to show you the world and then I'll go inside. Because if I walk up to the magnolia, which you can see is just starting to flower, the connection will drop off. So just enjoy that. And I hope you enjoy the music. Because it's quite pleasant music. It's just, for me, very distracting. So there you go, here's the back garden, and the winter show is just starting. You can see the jonquils, and there's all the beautiful grey foliage that I like so much, and it's all happening. So here we go. I'm going to make the camera go back to the normal size. Oh, maybe it just did that because I turned it round. So let me go inside, out of the noise. They're very busy there. 2 houses going up. They're actually very good neighbours, and it's interesting watching the build. I just, the way my brain and my nervous system work, music is very distracting to me. It's because it entrains my brain so much. I really can't think. And when there's just the sort of thudding beat of music in the distance, it's like somebody's poking me. So there you go. That's what it's like inside my head when there's music that I haven't purposefully chosen to listen to. Now, let me put this in the stand, and then I'll get into it and tell you about the law of attraction and why most of us have no idea how it works, and what the 0 point field has been telling me about how it actually works. Because if you listened last week, you will know that I sort of, everybody made a fuss about the law of attraction, and I thought, oh, well, I'll give this a go. And I immediately sort of vomited it out. Couldn't stand it. And I didn't understand why at the time. And it was really because in order to make the law of attraction work, at least on the surface, you have to feel like the thing you want is happening to you. And I couldn't do that. I just could not do that. There were other things I talked about that last week, but that was just a huge, big problem for me. It was massive issue. So anyway, I wrote all about that last week and how, because I was working with that, and then there was a point in, whenever it was, 21 or something, I've lost track, where I just dumped everything. Hi, gorgeous Christine, it's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you all on. I can't always tell who you are, but it's lovely to have people on. And I just dumped stuff in 21 it was, and then 18 months later something sort of went thunk inside me, and 6 months later I started working on God of Me. Short version. So, but this week, the 0 point field and I, because it's the 0 point field who is writing now, I just listen and kind of translate and write. We went back to what we wrote last week about, well, here's the story of me going to the void and things change and new information. And the 0 point field asked last week, okay, so I disappeared. I stopped doing Facebook Lives every day. I went away. I went into the void, and I posted replays for 18 months and longer. And what happened in that time? And so last week, the 0 point field said, well, Oneness figured this out, and I taught her this stuff, and all of these things. Thank you so much, Christine. And there was all this stuff. And so the first thing that we do when we sit down on a Wednesday morning is go back over what was written the week before. And what I'm finding, the more I do this partnership, the more I'm understanding that what is written the week before will often be expanded the week after. And eventually we'll get to the point where it's full and it's complete and everything's been teased out, and then we'll start the next piece. And so this week, we were just expanding really significantly some of the stuff that was written last week. And in particular, it was unpacking why the law of attraction didn't fricking work for me and doesn't fricking work for so many people. It's an immense source of frustration and lack. It's like, why doesn't this work for me? You can see all the examples, you watch the stories, you see people, and you think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And so the 0 Point Field said that there's a number of reasons, but here are three of the big ones. First, people don't really understand how the law of attraction works. They think, at least many people think, like I did, that it works when you got to think the right way and you got to feel the right things, you got to have good goals and you got to take action towards them and you got to resonate and be excited and happy and all of that stuff. And of course, I couldn't do most of that for various reasons. Talked about it last week. But really, that's not how it works. That's just one understanding of how it works, if you like. So that's the first thing. We don't really know how the law of attraction works. Second, we often don't understand, and I especially didn't understand, that the results we get in our lives are feedback. That's it. Pass or fail, good, bad, whatever, we put those labels on the results we get in our life, but actually it's feedback. And last, but most of all, and I recognized as I was writing, oh my God, I know how to do this now. I did not know how to use the feedback I was getting because I didn't understand that I was getting feedback, because I didn't understand how the law of attraction actually works. And so, of course, I couldn't change anything or get better results. And you wonder why I was pissed off and frustrated with the law of attraction. Well, that's why. Okay, it's so sensible why I was pissed off with it. So the law of attraction is actually always working perfectly. I hate to say it, but it is. The problem is we don't understand how it works. So what happened in that 18 months and that 24 months when I was in the void is I put some things together and I've continued to learn things, and more recently in the last few months, the 0 Point Field has been teaching me, this is how you do this stuff. And so it writes today, it's working perfectly. And last week, we wrote a lot of things about what it's been teaching me. And one of them, and it's all grounded in the quantum physics that I've been sort of absorbing from Joe Dispenza and Nassim Haramein for years now. But one of the key concepts is, well, if you change one part, you change the whole. And there's a whole, again, listen to last week if you don't know what I'm talking about. Just to be very quick, if you take a proton, it's made up of this incredibly organized structure of very small bits of energy, and they're held together in this very organized structure that we recognize as a proton. The thing is, if you have a proton, and like the whole universe is made of protons, like most of the mass in the universe is made of protons. If you change one proton, all of them know about it instantly. That's the thing that we know of as quantum entanglement. How does it work? Well, there are now really good-looking theories and mathematics to support it that says, and this is not new, that all of these little protons are connected by wormholes. And the information travels through the wormholes, but it doesn't just go from one proton to another proton, it goes to all of them. So if you change one proton, you change all of them, and it happens instantly. And we explained that a little bit last week, and it got unpacked a little bit more, but here's the really big thing that got added to that, which wasn't there last week, because there are all these things. When I looked at what we'd written, it was like, but there's that piece missing and that piece missing and that piece missing, and the more I unpacked, was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And there was another piece. Because if you change one proton, you change them all. But you don't just change the proton. Because when you change all the protons are the universe, so you've changed the universe, right? And if you remember or you studied or you believe me or whatever it is, that the proton is made up of all of these huge numbers of really, 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 really small bits of energy. And they're organized into the structure, and that's the proton. Each one of those, also, like if you could get inside the proton, you got up close to one of those, you'd see that its structure was a lot like the structure of the proton. It's like it's this tiny thing, but it's the same. It's just at a different scale. And so if you're inside the proton, there's all these teeny tiny little balls of energy that are doing their thing, and they're in this pattern, which is the proton, and you change one of those, they're all networked. And so they all communicate to each other, and then that proton changes. And hang on a minute, you just changed the proton, so all the protons change, and then our universe changes. And the piece that can really split your head open is the fact that if our universe changes, it's communicating with a whole lot of other universes at that scale, and boom, it keeps going. It doesn't stop. You know that thing of there's no beginning and there's no end? This is a fractal universe, and most fractals don't have a beginning and they don't have an end either. They just keep going. So not only does this pattern where the information is transferred go out and out and out and bigger and bigger and bigger. If you think about starting at the universal scale, it goes inward too. And the protons go into the little pieces of energy that make them up, and those little pieces of energy go into the pieces of energy that make them up, and it can just go in and get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, but it never actually stops. And to me, that's mind-blowing. That I can change the information of one proton or one person, that's me, nobody else needs to be involved, and somehow I'm changing the entire universe. And if I can do that well enough, I really should change what is happening in my life. That's really important to me. The other thing that's really big, which is actually the point that we started with, well, the point that I have in mind, that the 0 point field has in mind to get to explain why all this manifesting thing is so freaking hard, and why, you do this law of attraction thing and nothing happens. Why? Why is it so hard? Is because we think that we've got to use our thoughts and our feelings, and some people can do this, by the way. They do it, and they do it really well. It's like, how do you do that? And me, I could not get my thoughts and my feelings to do what I wanted. I just had no idea. And of course, in those days when the law of attraction was really big and exciting and everyone was going, wow, this is incredible, I knew nothing about Joe Dispenza. I knew nothing about emotional addiction, and why it was so hard to make my thoughts and my feelings line up with what I wanted in my life, which is actually, but what I didn't understand, and what's new information to me now, and it's come from NASM and it's come from the Blue Healers that I mentioned last week through Jen Wakefield, amazing, amazing information, is that this whole 3D experience that I'm in, that you're in, that everybody's in, is a downward causation. It's an outward picturing. It's like a hologram that's being projected. And those are all the wrong words, because I know this thing inside me, but it's hard to say. That frequency and resonance, like cymatics, if you've ever looked at cymatics, actually shapes matter. So in fact, I am a frequency, I'm a resonance in the whole of the enormous universal unified field of energy, and I shape the matter and the experience of my life. And what I come to understand, what the 0 point field has arranged for me to learn and has further added to my understanding, is that I'm frequency, and if I change my frequency, my life will change. And I can even do that if I can't find the emotions. I can even do that if I don't know what I need to think, because whatever it is I need to be thinking is so far outside of my thought or felt experience, that's like, I don't know. That thing where you just want to create something and all you know is that where you are is crap and you have no idea where you want to be because you can't imagine it, but you just want to be somewhere else. Well, Zero Point Field has told me how to deal with that now, and this is what it wants you to know, if this is something you want to know. And so you got to change some small part of where you're at, and it's going to be changing everything, but also it's going to change things at the universal scale and things at the subatomic scale, and that's what has to happen for there to be real change. That's what I didn't know. I thought that if I just did the thoughts and feelings, even if they were Clayton's thoughts and feelings, fake ones, that it would have the effect. No, there really has to be a true alignment, and not even just in my body and my brain. I've got to change the frequency of me in the unified field, the 0 point field, which is teaching us. So then, having explained about that, and this is really cool, and I'm going to read it, right? Each week I read this. So if you want to hear exactly what the 0 point field wrote, because it's better than the way I would say it, it's more concise, of course, because I'm sitting there and trimming and pruning and making this really make sense. I'm going to read this, and it's going to be posted on my Patreon. The link's in the description here. And all you need to do to hear it is to follow me for free on Patreon, because I believe this information should be available. I'm not going to put this information behind a paywall. So that's that. And what happened then was not what I expected in the writing. The 0 point field said, well, Oneness is doing this, she's changing this, and this is the outcome. I expect you want to know how she does this. Well, here's some of the detail. And it proceeds to give me, to kind of put these thoughts in my mind, and I'm realizing stuff about what I'm doing that I didn't even know I was doing. Because, of course, when you explain something, you really have to unpack it. It's like, oh my God, is this what I'm doing? But this is what it's teaching me. And it's not just teaching me because it wants to teach me and nobody else. It wants humanity to know how to do this. I mean, the madness that's happening on our planet right now, and equally the genius and the inventions and the amazingness and the changes and the change in consciousness that's all happening. I mean, there's this crazy solar maximum going on. Has anybody noticed, that the amazing auroras, because the sun's going crazy, and then there's all the people worried about the satellites and the radio transmissions and electricity brownouts and all that stuff. It's a really intense time on planet Earth. And it is intense, but because of that chaos and that shakingness and that differentness of everything that's going on, it actually makes it easier for this kind of change to happen, and for new information to get in, because everything's so chaotic. The chaos is disorganization, but it means something new can come along and reshape it. So, it's kind of hang on to your hats, but realize that this is here for us. It's not because we're all going to hell in a handbasket. So I'm really excited because I always wanted to teach this kind of advanced energy work that I get to do. Hi, Augusta! I always wanted to teach it. But I always got bogged down. I got lost in the weeds. There was too much detail. And the way that the 0 point field kind of dictates and writes this to me is amazing, because it's so simple. And I kind of want to say that anyone can do it. And in truth, that is true. But in fact, you would have to practice. You would have to learn some basic skills. You would have to train your brain, because if you have the attention span of a gnat, I have the attention span of a flea, by the way. My brain is always wandering, but I've learned to bring it back. One of the first skills I had to learn was the fact that my brain does wander, my mind does wander when I'm wanting to create change and work with energy or whatever. And I had to learn how to notice that and bring it back. That's a skill. It gets easier. I had to learn how to access information. I had to learn how to connect with the 0 point field. If I didn't have that ability, I couldn't sit with my eyes open at the computer and feel in myself what the words are. And in my mind, I mean, it's kind of I feel it in my body, I get it in my mind. I know when what I'm writing isn't right, and I go back and it's like, this isn't right. I said it out loud. This isn't right. We're going to fix this. And we did. So it's a journey, it's a skill. But what I can say absolutely and categorically in the last little while is that I have literally changed my past. Whole huge slices of who I used to be that I would remember and wince and go, oh, I still have the memory that I lived that experience, but the entire emotional charge is gone. And more than that, I'm seriously not that person anymore. That I no longer identify with that history. And I'm talking genetics, ancestry, family, the whole 9 yards. And I still love my family. But I can't really explain it without taking far too long. I'm not the same person. This information has really changed me. Not just because it's amazing information, but because I can actually use it. And things that hurt and limited me, and I didn't even know that they were hurting and limiting me until the 0 Point Field showed me how to find those things and change them, don't hurt and limit me anymore. So it's a journey and it's ongoing, and I'm just grateful I get to share it with you. And if you are interested, if this is resonating as something, oh gee, I might be curious to know how to do that, well, look me up on Patreon. It costs you nothing but some time, and time is precious, and you may want to spend it elsewhere, and that's okay. But if it's calling you, or if you're curious, check it out, because I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to hear your questions. And this conversation, this download is going to keep coming, because it's what I do. It's what I have to do. It's what I'm here to do. So thank you for listening. It is lovely to have you with me. If you're on YouTube and you got this far in the video, thanks so much. Big love. I appreciate your support, your like, your subscribe, and I will be back next week with more. Till then, much love.